What's happening, everyone? Welcome back for another episode of the Chamber Podcast. Very exciting show for you guys today. Joining me in the studio is the owner and the sommelier of the Single Barrel Social here in Brighton. We have Chris and Hassan. Welcome, gentlemen.
Yes, happy to be here. Thank you.
Happy to be here.
So restaurants has probably been the most talked about industry in the last 3 years due to the complications, fallout from the pandemic. Everyone has become a restaurant expert in the last 3 years. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
Even though they're
Armchair quarterbacking is rampant.
Yeah. Here's what you need to do with your business. Let me tell you, even though I've never been in the restaurant industry. Right. So Single Barrel Social is one of my favorite places in Brighton. We talked about this in the pre-show a little bit. If you haven't been there, the experience, the atmosphere, the service, food, drinks, it's all top shelf. But I want to know about the origin of the restaurant, how it came into place. So Chris is the owner. Just give me a little bit of a rundown to your vision of what the restaurant was and then how you brought that into fruition.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think much like you, I'm such a fan of a good experience, a good service, good dining, good cocktail. And, I lived in California for a long time and traveled quite a bit for work. So I knew what was out there and was very used to getting those great experiences. And every time I'd come back to Brighton, hadn't been back in a while, and I'd have to go to Royal Oak or Ann Arbor, Detroit or something to try to find just that level of something cool here, that date night spot, just a fun experience to go after work with your friends, and just didn't have anything. And that started to really wear on us here and frustrate us. And, I think at some point in everyone's life who's interested in bourbon as well, you start thinking, what would it be like to have a bar, a restaurant, something to do with that? And always been a big visionary guy, big dreamer, big business guy, and been around a lot of franchising. So this was kind of a unique opportunity to hand do everything from the look and feel, the vision of what this was really going to be, and to create something from scratch, from the ground up. It was the first chance to really do something and bring an experience to my hometown. I had never had a business in my hometown before that point as well either. So kind of had the vision sort of come together and was ready to hear no a lot of the steps along the way. Was ready to get a lot of no's because we had heard a lot of the same stuff about the restaurant biz, what a headache it was, a lot of anxieties, but found great architects that absolutely fell in love with the vision, found great operators that fell in love with the vision. We were able to put together a team and get this thing off the floor, and it was a heck of a construction time as well. I mean, we had a lot of delays, and it was a way longer process than we thought just getting it going. But to finally see that vision, it was just incredible. So we wanted to bring an experience, bring access to something special you just weren't going to get around, and be able to retain some talented people here in Brighton and have a great experience we were proud to go to when we brought friends, business colleagues in from out of town and locals as well.
I think something that people might not think about fully is the process of opening a restaurant and the amount of time it takes. I've seen there's been a lot of restaurants in town that are getting ready to open. People are like, man, what's taking so long? I feel like it should be faster. And it's like, well, there's like, unless you've been through that process, you might not be aware of just how long things could take. Yeah. So when was the idea for Single Barrel Social hatched, and then when did the doors open for the first time?
Yeah, so right around 2016, late 2016, 2017, we really started kicking this around. And later in 2017, I actually just put together a kind of like a lookbook, I called it. I just scrapped together like a vision board of pieces of restaurants I'd like, just service thoughts, elements, design elements, just textures, feels, looks, smells, drinks, kind of compiled my dream vision of everything we have seen. And it's funny to look back. It's very similar to the end product now I'll have to show you, but found the right architects that really brought that to life. And so we opened our doors in fall of 2019. So started to assemble the team in early 2018, and then all came together around late 2019 there.
And is it what's that experience like when you open the restaurant for the first time and you see people sitting in the middle of your vision? What's that feeling like?
It's surreal. We've opened a lot of businesses, and this scaling franchising is kind of what we do. And I have that feeling every time I'm in a new construction is just pretty soon I'm going to be standing here watching that exact experience. And it's still surreal every single time. It's just so cool to bring something into the community and watch them engage with it. But what's been very special about Single Barrel Social is the love and awe that people have for that place. Every time I'm in, it's people's first time there maybe, or you just hear people talking at the bourbon bar saying the same stuff I said, that we're saying. I've never had an old fashioned like this, or they're bringing their buddy from out of town to say, I told you so. Yeah. Just they look at the selection here, look at what they have, or look at the food. So you kind of hear that experience. People are celebrating there. People are happy to be there. Dates and great experiences, birthday parties, celebrations, work colleagues, just things you wouldn't really usually see in Brighton. Everyone's just excited to be there and celebrate the experience. So that that part of it is still an ongoing honor to watch people enjoy, and to still, just have my engagement party there, to still be a fan of it at that level myself, that if I didn't have that, I wouldn't even be doing things like this. I'd be stressed trying to find a place. So it's been allowed me to access something, a great spot to celebrate myself as well. So really special.
I love that. And Hassan, as someone who came in midway through on the business to serve as a sommelier there, one, give our listeners a bit of a rundown of what a sommelier does. And then two, talk about your first impressions when you step foot into Single Barrel for the first time.
What a sommelier does and what we are is our job is to actually understand what it is that you want before you do.
It's like Miss Cleo doing the psychic readings.
You got a bit of drinking to do now. No, I mean, essentially, I operate in information base. So when someone sits down and they tell me what they're having as their protein or their meal, for instance, then I have questions about their palate. And then before if they're buying by the bottle, my job is to have experience with the bottle itself, so I can differentiate different flavor profiles that will complement the meal. And if they're buying by the glass, usually I do this thing. I hate implicit bias, so I hate when people think that they know, but aren't willing to give things a chance. So one of the things that I do is if someone is saying, for instance, having scallops, we have a beautiful scallop dish that pan-seared, served over arborio risotto, zested with Meyer lemon, prosciutto chips, tricolored organic cauliflower, etc. I have a perfect wine for that. Before I tell you what that wine is, I don't want your implicit bias of what you think you know or what you think you like getting in the way. So I will bring you over a tiny sample of something. Say, hey, give that a try. Then after you try it, and then you're thinking about what it is that you're about to eat, then we start talking about what the wine is. You get what you think out of the way so you can experience. And again, that speaks to the whole dynamic of experience, which leads into my first experience coming in. So I joined the team a little bit later. I had a conversation with one of the original architects of the culture of the restaurant itself, and I was intrigued. And I myself, being a skeptic, of course, I stepped in the restaurant a few times, actually before I started working there, just to try it out, because I really didn't want to run off to somewhere from where I was in pursuit of just money or just anything else other than being able to provide something I could be passionate about. So my first experience there, I intended to have an entree and never got around to it because I had too many appetizers.
That happens to me all the time. The charcuterie board takes me down.
It was the empanadas charcuterie board.
When people ask for a recommendation, I'm like, do you want an entree or do you just want to go with starters?
I mean, do you want to just have a little nom nom and then get into dinner, or do you want to just bury yourself? Because that's what we did, and we buried ourselves. We totally intended to have an entree, and we had calamari, we had empanadas, we had charcuterie. And by the time Chelsea, our server, came back around, first of all, I was impressed with the choices of beverages that I had. I was impressed with the level of service, and me being quite observational, I was really impressed with the teamwork that I was seeing in front of me. But by the time Chelsea came back around to ask what we wanted for dinner, I was like, yeah,
we're doing it to go.
About that.
Or next time, yeah.
So, yeah, we bowed out. So we had to come back a second time to get an entree. And the second time we came back, Brooke, my lady, and I split a Delmonico, got 2 lobster tails, and really got into it. And I was just thoroughly impressed. Like, I actually knew the cooking technique of the Delmonico. I knew they used a wood-fired grill. So I say they. I knew we used a wood-fired grill. But at the time, they were they. And so the Delmonico seemed like the perfect cut. I knew the farm that it was sourced from already. I was already familiar with the proteins that they produce. And I could taste the actual way that was prepared, which was impressive to me because that gets lost in a lot of experiences. I've been to a lot of steakhouses. I mean, I enjoy a good steak. But I could literally taste the differentiation in technique that they were using in the back. And I was like, that's how it's supposed to be. Okay, I have to work here.
Yeah.
Got to do it.
In both of you, with all the years of experience that you have combined, what do you think is one of the largest misnomers that people have when it comes to restaurants, or something that they just automatically assume or take for granted, but it's, there's so much more to that?
I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're going out to eat is that very often they're not ready to necessarily have an experience per se. They just don't want to have to do it themselves at home. So I think it's important for, like, when I make a decision where I'm going to go eat, I'm thinking about how the style of food that I want first. Secondly, I'm thinking about the things that style is going to provide. For instance, yesterday, I wanted pho. And so I know where to go get pho. So that's not only a style, but it's an execution. I know that it's not going to be involved. I know that the service is going to be precursory, but I'm there for the pho. However, if I was deciding that I was taking Brooke out and we were going to go really sit down and break bread and have a meal, I know that the experience is important. I know that the service cannot be precursory. The service needs to be involved. I need to understand what I'm doing. I need to take a moment and not just ingest the food, but ingest the experience as a whole. I want things to play out as they would, but I also have an end goal, and I think a lot of people forget that. There's a differentiation between when you're just going to service food. I mean, there's going to Taco Bell, and then there's going to La Victoria. Both serve Mexican food, but the experiences are dramatically different.
Yeah, slightly, yeah, absolutely.
And it's a consideration process. So don't forget why you're doing what you're doing. If you're just fueling yourself, whatever. But if you want a dynamic experience, consider where you're going, consider what you're doing, consider how you're doing it, and keep that consideration in mind. And I think that's the mistake that a lot of people make, is that they just kind of generalize eating and eating out as whatever. And don't do that. Take your time. Sitting across from the people that you care about is one of the most important things that you can do in a day. So take your time. We have TVs, but don't pay attention to them. Put your phone down. I have this little cool thing that I think is fun. Everybody put your phones in the middle of the table, and the first person to pick their phone up pays a tab.
Love it. That's great. I've never heard that before.
Yes. I'd say mine's maybe just a personal one, is I think, again, the dynamics of having a business in your area. I think a lot of people think we just, wanted a cool place to just go hang out, so to speak. And, our DNA in business is really to win and try to be the best and protect people's chance to have an opportunity to build something special and be performance-based and have a place that attracts performers like Hassan to come and feel they have the room to grow and expand and fulfill their passion and make sure that they are on a path to win and succeed, so we can kind of take care of all their visions to the highest potential and put everyone on the biggest stage that they want to get to. So it's that marriage of trying to help them win, give them the skills, transfer whatever else they can do to complement their passions, to let it take off and align a team to make something truly special happen that everyone can feel.
Yeah, I love that. So as we, we're midway through 2023, all the reins are off now from COVID. What's on the roadmap for Single Barrel Social over the next year?
Yeah, we've really settled in as that steakhouse and bourbon bar, really drilling home at that, delivering excellent options around that centerpiece. And Hassan, I'd love to let you kind of speak to the vision. You see it from the food standpoint, but that's it. We just want to give a incredible experience you're not going to get anywhere else, a celebration of not just a place to eat, but a place you're going to find great service. And for people who have been out and know what's out there, they're going to have that and they expect that. And we want to give it to them here. So we're happy to give a really high-end experience at any point you're looking for. So Hassan, would love to hear how you kind of explain the elaborations around the steakhouse and bourbon bar concept that we found to be our home.
I think that the concept is actually fairly straightforward. We want to continue to provide experientially the things that we have been doing, but we want to expand on that by maybe having some culinary innovation, and which we are doing constantly. We are constantly playing with different ideas and concepts around fusion cuisine, standardized American bistro cuisine, and steakhouse and prime steakhouse cuisine. Run it as a special. Run it by the people. Let them vote with their mouths. Yeah. And then if something seems to be sticking, then we add that to the menu. And the flexibility of being able to do so allows us to stay current and relevant in terms of culinary aspect of it. But I also enjoy the fact that we're constantly exploring the idea of different ideas of cocktails, wine concepts, things that marry with the food as well. Yeah. For instance, this last week we had a cocktail special, very, very simple, but it seemed to actually strike a chord with, ladies in particular, honestly. It was a key lime martini with a graham cracker rim.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, about to go after this.
It's delicious. I'm a huge fan of key lime pie, by the way. But it was delicious, but at the same time, I often suggested it as dessert, and ladies were like, nope. Now,
this is through all the courses we're having this. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like we had a Korean fried chicken dish that was just a home run. It was a special, and the demand was so crazy, it became one of my favorite dishes there. So it's beautiful to have such a complex place where you know you can get truly the best steak around. Like I said, the more I travel, the more I come to just honor, respect the quality to put out a good steak, a good ribeye. It's wonderful. But those appetizers, the small plates, the shareables, those specials like the Korean fried chicken, just wonderful stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, like, consider this: when I go talk to my tables, often I'm an information-based guy, so I like to spoon-feed bits of information to my tables about what we're doing and why. I think it's important to understand why we do what we do, and why we source our proteins from where we source them from. So, like, when I look at my table and I say, well, this steak actually comes from Prime Angus Reserve in Northern Illinois, there's a method to the madness there. I can tell them about Prime Angus Reserve. I can tell them that they're one of above the top 1% in terms of quality of raising cattle. They lean into humanely raising, sustainable raising processes. One of only a few farms in the United States that's actually legally allowed to raise Wagyu. Like, there's a lot of things that I can get into, but then the proof is in the pudding. So, like, when the steak hits the table and they cut into that, they realize why I told them that. And I think it's the coolest thing in the world to see someone bite into something and, like, they get food stupid. And they just, like, everything just kind of stops, and they're like, the brain stops thinking about tomorrow and what they did at work, and they stop thinking about the thing they have to do in 20, 30 minutes, and you're there.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like when they have that experience, everything that you said is now rushing through their brain of like, oh, that's why it's different. Right. That's why he told me all that.
I think it's important. I think it's really, I mean, like, honestly, one of my favorite things in the world is to see when this is my sense of pride, is when someone says, I'm having this, this, and this. And then I say, then you need this wine. And I bring that over to them. And they taste it, and they're like, this is pretty good. But then when they have the food and the wine and that handshake of those two things go together, when it clicks for them and they realize, understand that, like, literally everything that I do and study for isn't for me, it's for you. I had a test that I failed as a som, and I was sitting down, and this guy from Uruguay, I was in Miami, and this guy from Uruguay was sitting next to me, and he goes, you don't understand, being too prideful about this. You're upset that you failed this test, but do you feel good about how you did on the test? Well, yeah, actually I do. Explain to me. Your job as a person who understands drinks and food is to be my best wingman. This isn't for you. It's so that you can make me look like a genius to my wife. It's so that you can make me experience true happiness and forget about all of the other things that are happening around me for just a moment. And this is what I talk about when I'm saying that food should be, yeah, it's fuel 4 or 5 days out of 7. But every now and then you got to treat yourself. You have to self-care, and you have to go out and you have to have that meal where you are allowed to have that experience where none of that matters anymore. Now you're communicating with the people you love, and you are experiencing for a moment, and you're brought into that moment. Even if you're a guy doing business, it makes it easier to achieve the goal of your business when you're able to sit across from someone, look them in the eye, break bread with them, and experience something. It eliminates boundaries. I think that one of the biggest problems in the world is that people aren't sitting down anymore, staring at their phones, driving in their cars, lost, listening to whatever. People have forgotten how to sit down and communicate and experience. And that's what this restaurant is the singularity of bringing all of that together with beautiful food. Not just delicious, I mean beautiful food. Put in front of you. Experience for a second. Just allow that to happen for you, not to you, for you. And if more people could do that, I think that the world might be less isolated, less complicated. And this restaurant is an extension of my ability to, at least for a few people at a time, give them something.
Yeah, I love that. And that's got to be interesting for you, Chris, to see that whole vision come full circle as you see people that are coming into the business and probably adopting and expanding what you've started.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the best part for me. It's just what an honor to have a place where passionate people and specialists and dynamic specialists like Hassan could just come in and have the room to do that, because just using my skills of organizational development or alignment, whatever I can, to help close the loop and give them someone in there that can give the best food so he can do his thing and everyone can do their thing. And the people in the back making the food know guys like him are out there doing that thing in front. So everyone knowing there's that reciprocity of vision and everyone pushing towards that mission of truly giving hospitality at a real level. It's just it's a beautiful thing to give the space for all of these dynamic specialists to just do it together and elevate everyone else's work. That's the best part.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you both taking the time to walk the listeners through all of that, and me as well. That's it's really cool to see the back end of a place I've appreciated from the customer perspective, but also now getting the full vision from you both. So thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you, man. It was absolutely a pleasure. And thank you, Chris, for giving me the environment to do what I do.
Yes, they've built a community over there, and you could feel it the second you go in, like we've all said, and it's all because everyone giving their all to row towards an aligned vision and making it happen for the community. It's beautiful to be there as a customer as well.
Yeah, it's seamless.
Yeah.
Absolutely seamless. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
All right, everyone, that's going to wrap up this week's edition of the Chamber Podcast. If you want to learn more about Single Barrel Social, be sure to check out the show notes, and you can find everything about them there. Appreciate y'all listening. We'll catch you next week. Take care.